This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Living with COVID. I'm Rishika Barua. This is the show where we answer your questions on how to lead a life in this new normal. We have with us Dr. Satish Babu. He's a consultant and HOD of the Department of Endocrinology, Diabetes and Metabolism, joining us from the Sparsh Hospital in Bangalore. We have Dr. Anupam Biswas, consultant endocrinologist and diabetologist from the Aditya Birla Memorial Hospital in Pune, and Dr. J.S. Duggal, interventional cardiologist and electrophysiologist from the Jahangir Hospital in Pune as well. Appreciate you, doctors, for sparing the time of day. I want to begin by asking you about chronic disease management at the time of a pandemic. Several patients still very apprehensive about the risk of infection in hospitals and clinics. Dr. Babu, what would you like to tell patients about how you're managing, hospital spaces at this time?
Yeah, it's almost 5 months since this COVID pandemic has hit the world. It's a unprecedented times, and there is a lot of myths around this infection. But what we have sort of understood very well is the root of infection. This airborne infection, which is a respiratory route, upper airway, is the route of entry of this virus. So there are set guidelines which all hospitals hopefully are following for minimizing this infection, especially for patients who are coming for other ailments. So right. The guidelines are like at entry point, there should be a screening for patients who are coming with various problems. There should be a screening for COVID infection related symptoms. Check for temperature, segregate to no risk and risk patients. So if there is a patient with risk with COVID infection, segregate to them to the accident and emergency, where doctor can see separately with the proper protection. Whereas non-risk patients should be triaged to front desk, into the waiting area. Obviously, waiting area should be not crowded. Seats should be well apart, like at least 5 to 6 feet. Always, both hospital staff and the patient should be wearing appropriate mask in a right manner. The area should be well ventilated. It shouldn't be a closed, cramped area. And if possible, avoiding air conditioning is also an option, so that there is no recirculation of the air in the closed environment.
Okay. I think that's very crucial information. But Dr. Biswas, if you'd just like to weigh in here about that very interesting point of segregation between COVID and other patients. Given that a lot of patients are actually asymptomatic, how does that segregation happen in hospitals or clinics?
Yeah, so this is a very relevant question, because as you yourself said that patients are very apprehensive. Especially the patients who are not infected with COVID, they are apprehensive and they fear getting infected by the virus once they come to the hospital. So we have a special triage area where all the patients are first screened for their symptoms. And if they have symptoms of COVID-19 like fever, cough, breathlessness, or they have a history of contact with any patient who has been diagnosed as COVID positive, we send these patients to the flu clinic for further workup of their COVID-19 status. Whereas the other patients we send to the respective specialties. Right. Apart from that, we are making sure that all our patients are compulsorily wearing masks, following sanitization procedures. We are regularly screening temperatures and maintaining social distancing norms.
All right, very interesting. Dr. Duggal, would you like to explain how procedures like ECGs or EEGs are safely done in hospitals and clinics? Is it safe for patients to go ahead and get these and several other different types of tests done at this time?
Yeah, it is absolutely safe. As he has already brought out, we screen the patient before we order a test. So he has already had a temperature check. He had oxygen SpO2 check. He's already had blood pressure checked and also his pulse. So basically, there are four aspects of doing this: the patient himself, the procedure room, the technician who's doing it, as well as the machine.
Right.
So we see that all these things are well sterilized. The room is well sterilized. The technician is wearing masks and gloves, and the machine is also sterilized. And we have a hand disinfectant which is foot operated. Then the patient is taken into a EEG room or a ECG room, and all the equipment, the electrodes which are used are disposable, and adequate precautions are taken while doing it. And so there is no infection. And once it is done, it is a paper strip is taken, or we are also digitally transferring the results to the respective consultants by the computer. So therefore, there is no touching of even the paper at that stage.
All right, very interesting. Dr. Babu, what about diabetes patients, with conditions like retinopathy and diabetic food that needs to be monitored at regular intervals? What's the advice that you'd give such patients in COVID times?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Complications like retinopathy and foot problems are very common in diabetes, and these complications should be regularly followed up to prevent further worsening and appropriate interventions at the right point. So prioritizing when a diabetic individual comes to clinic or an hospital, prioritizing whether a set test or be it retinopathy or foot examination is needed for that individual can be decided by doctor if the complication is not imminent, and if it can be done at later stage, it can be postponed and given a date. Hopefully the COVID infection should settle down in near future. So if somebody requires foot examination or retinal examination, then and there, of course, proper screening of that individual, whether he has a risk for COVID, has to be done as we already discussed. Then wearing a protective mask or a protective gear, means personal protective equipment for doctor, and protecting the patient by wearing appropriate mask in a proper way. And mostly nowadays the retinal images are done by digital cameras, which are quite good, and it gives a distant, like not a clinical bedside examination what we were doing previously. And of course, for foot examination, the best way is to avoid foot examination in a sitting posture. Make the patient lie down on the bed and you go to the foot, and it naturally keeps you and the patient away at least 5 to 6 feet. So by wearing protective gear, right, and keeping a distance, you can continue to screen for complications like retinopathy and foot problems.
All right. What about growth hormones? Are they safe to take at this time? What are your recommendations?
Growth hormone is like an hormone. It's like insulin. It's a very safe hormone which can be taken, and it's absolutely safe even in current situation. Only issue is if somebody is unwell, as such growth hormone will be discontinued. So if somebody gets unwell and gets admitted, it is quite safe to withhold the growth hormone injection. Otherwise, it's like an insulin hormone. It's very safe to be given even in current situation.
All right, Dr. Duggal, there is a lot of stress that is associated with the time of this pandemic. Are you seeing many patients with stress-induced heart diseases, and how can one manage that?
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of stress-induced diseases because there are multiple factors. It is the physical stress, the social stress, the psychological stress, emotional stress, and even financial and economical stress. All this is contributing to a condition known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy, which was also earlier called, it's a Japanese Tusosobo syndrome. Also, it is called broken heart syndrome. Now, these patients, typically present with ST&T changes, which is, seen in heart attacks. Right. If you do an echo, they have a ballooned heart, which is an apical portion of the heart is ballooned out. There is pumping has become less. Regional wall motion abnormalities are there. the cardiac enzymes which we do in heart attacks are raised moderately, that means the CPKMB and the TROP-T. Plus, if you further investigate them by an angiogram, it is normal. And these patients are generally COVID-19 negative. And this is what is known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy. In fact, in a study done in Cleveland Clinic, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, post-pandemic, the incidence has gone to about 11 times, 11.8%, versus in pre-pandemic time, it was just 1%. And they require a little long time to, come out of this. The pumping becomes normal and they completely recover. So this is a stress-induced cardiomyopathy which has increased. And as I've said, they are COVID-19 negative.
Right. Very interesting. Dr. Babu, what's the kind of advice that you would give patients with chronic conditions? At a time like this, what is a safe medication? What is a medication that one should avoid? And of course, clinical monitoring.
Yeah, it is now very clear that COVID infection with comorbid conditions, with chronic conditions, do very badly. So it's well understood all over. It's a universal phenomena now. So people with chronic conditions like kidney disease, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, immunosuppressed, on chemotherapy, cancer patients should take extra precaution. They should be on whatever regular medications regularly. They should monitor a specific condition related few things. Like if somebody has high blood pressure, they should probably monitor their blood pressure at home. If somebody has diabetes, regular monitoring of sugars. And of course, what makes important thing is follow up with the doctor. And at this unprecedented circumstances, going to hospital can be tricky and should be avoided wherever they can. So telemedicine becomes a very important and a key aspect in follow-up, and having a plan so that they can look after themselves quite normally at home situation. Only going to hospital when there is an emergency, when there is a need, when doctor has to examine, should be the way forward. And this infection going on for near future, most of these patients should get in touch with their doctors to have a set plan for a month, 2 months, and take care of themselves. Avoid going to hospital by self-protection is what is key to chronic patients with chronic conditions.
All right, I think that's very useful advice for patients with chronic conditions. On that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stay tuned.
Knowledge Partner, USV, your reliable healthcare partner.
Welcome back. You're watching Living with COVID. Our panel of expert doctors continues to be live with us. Dr. Biswas, if I can come to you first, what are the kind of precautions that a person should take, especially if they have conditions like hypertension and diabetes? Are these patients at a higher risk, and what's the advice that you'd like to give to them?
Okay, so it should be remembered that the chances of getting the virus is equal for everyone throughout the entire population. But the morbidity and mortality associated are more with patients with comorbid conditions, like you mentioned, diabetes and hypertension. So these patients are told to monitor their blood pressure levels and blood sugar levels regularly at home. And no matter how much we stress on the importance of lifestyle, that is your diet and exercise, it is less. So patients with diabetes should follow a diabetic diet with low glycemic load and a diet rich in fiber, whereas hypertensive patients with high blood pressure should go for a DASH diet rich in fruits, vegetables and low-fat dairy products. The patient should completely stop smoking and reduce their alcohol intake also. And they should maintain a blood sugar level, fasting blood sugar between 80 to 130, postprandial, that is your post meals blood sugar, less than 180, and an HbA1c less than 7. However, if the goals are not met, they should immediately consult their treating doctor.
All right, I think that's very useful advice as well. Dr. Biswas, Dr. Duggal, if I can come to you at this point, it's advised by many doctors to postpone elective surgeries. But what about angioplasties, angiography procedures that need to be done now? Is it safe to do them? And the other important question is it safe in heart patients to postpone these procedures?
This is a very important question because once this 5 months ago, the pandemic started, patients were reluctant to come. In fact, there was a drop in 35 to 40% of heart attacks patient coming to the hospital. But now they have started coming. Now it is important that this procedure there are two group of patients. One is a stable angina and one is unstable angina or heart attacks. Now those with unstable angina and heart attacks have to undergo angiography and angioplasty, as this is the only modality which decreases mortality, reinfection, strokes. So therefore, most of the patients now coming, we are taking it for the procedures. Now, as far as the unstable angina is concerned, they are also divided into high risk and low risk. If it's a high risk, we have a gray scoring, we have a TIMI scoring. So we decide if it's a high risk, it's taken. And if it's a low risk, then it can be medically managed at that time. Unstable angina needs high risk to be done. But when it comes to stable angina, we have an option of waiting and planning the procedure. We have an option of bypass or an angioplasty. And depending on the patient's condition, we take them. And now it is very safe. We are taking precautions. The doctors are wearing PPE. The patients are given a mask. And we also do sometimes a COVID test before doing it.
All right, Dr. Babu, what about diabetes patients? And a very commonly asked question is, are type 1 diabetes patients at a higher risk of COVID-19?
Type 1 diabetes, like any other chronic condition, individuals with type 1 diabetes are more prone for complications with COVID infections, especially because they present with ketoacidosis, and this COVID infection pushes them for ketoacidosis. Yes, they are very high risk individuals for COVID infections and complications. But what keeps them away from complications is having a good glucose control right through. And if they become symptomatic, especially with fever or influenza-like illness, they should consult a doctor immediately. Until then, they would usually have a sick day rule. The doctor would have already prescribed a sick day rule regime. They should follow that and seek help both from doctor and hospital as soon as they become symptomatic. This should put them at low risk of developing complications with COVID infection.
All right, Dr. Biswas, one of the other key issues at this time is, of course, management of, PCOD, polycystic ovaries, or PCOS at the time of a coronavirus pandemic. How do you manage, these intrinsic issues at this particular time? What are the extra precautions that you need to take? What is the extra bit that you need to do in terms of diet and exercise?
Okay, so this is a very relevant question once again, because recent studies have shown from UK, US and France that patients who are obese, these patients are more at risk and they have been admitted more in ICU than the normal counterparts. And since we know that our PCOS patients tend to be overweight and obese, these patients should take strict precautions, more so because they would have put on more weight during this extended period of lockdown. So it is recommended that they lead a healthy lifestyle. Simple measures like decreasing daily calorie intake to almost 500 kcal per day, reduced by 500 kcal per day, can do a lot in reducing the insulin resistance. On top of that, adding some moderate exercise of 30 minutes per day is recommended in these patients. Apart from that, these patients are told to be compliant with their medications. Whatever medications they are taking, they should be compliant with their medications. Whether it is oral contraceptive pills or anti-androgens, they should be compliant with their medications. That is all for now for these patients.
All right, Dr. Duggal, a lot of confusion regarding the use of ACE inhibitors and ARBs for the management of hypertension. What are your views?
Yes, this is a very important issue because this coronavirus or the COVID-19 disease, it enters the vascular system, the pulmonary system through a ACE receptor using a spike protein. So when this came out, there was a concern. So I would like to, answer this in three heads. First is COVID-19 and hypertension. The hypertension increases the mortality by about two-folds. The second head is whether control makes the difference. Yes, those patients who are hypertensive and on medicine versus not on medicine. So those who are treated have lower mortality than those who are not treated. The third thing is what drugs. Now there are two groups of drugs. We call it RAAS system, that is ACE inhibitors and ARBs, renin, angin, aldosterone system. Now this system versus non-COVID drugs like other drugs like beta blockers, alpha blockers, calcium channel, there is no difference in between the two groups when they are treated, hypertension is treated. But at the same time, those who are on ACE inhibitors and ARBs in fact have a lower mortality. So there is no difficulty if the patient is on these drugs, we continue, and rather we are keen to give this drug in the situation of COVID.
All right, doctors, thank you so much for sparing the time of day. You've been very kind in answering key questions because remember, it's not just the COVID-19 pandemic that we're battling. There are several other chronic diseases that continue alongside, and how to manage them, what are the do's and don'ts. I think this is very crucial advice that you have given our viewers on the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Knowledge Partner, USV, your reliable healthcare partner.